Taoiseach, I have a positive suggestion for something your department could do, which is to take the lead role in the area of disability and disability rights and services into your department. I mean, even today, I think 2 deputies raised various issues of mental health services and disability services in leaders' questions. We had carers outside protesting about what they didn't get in your rather miserable budget. This morning, 2 disability activists were removed from Connolly Station as part of their ongoing campaign to highlight the constant breakdown of lifts on DART stations, which I raised last week, and then this weekend there were more lifts broken than at any time in the past. 10 lifts out at the weekend. Sea Point in my own area has been out for months now. And it just goes on. There's so many issues, right? And what disability activists are saying is, given that disability issues cross a whole number of departments, education does a bit, social protection does a bit, health does a bit, and you can go on through the list, there's nobody taking the overview and driving through the commitment to equality which is enshrined in the UNCRPD, okay? And your department, it seems to me, is ideally suited. It would give it the sort of importance and significance it deserves to actually achieve equality and real rights for people with disabilities. So that is a suggestion to you, Taoiseach, that you would take the area of disability and disability services into your department to become the driver in that area.
Thanks very much. Just to start off, I think that Deputy Burton's is absolutely correct when she talks about the broad policy consensus that we have in Ireland on social, economic and foreign policy and how that's been beneficial to us. I think that it's been one of Ireland's strengths in recent years that the political parties are so similar in terms of our policies and outlooks, and that has given people a lot of confidence in Ireland. People investing in Ireland, other governments, other countries engaging with us, knowing that even if there's a change of government, fundamental social, economic and foreign policy probably won't change all that much, and I would agree with her in that assessment. In relation to the legislation in particular, the reason why it's not been prioritised is because it really is just a technical piece of legislation to restructure NESDO and NESC. It would have no impact on the workings of the National Economic and Social Council. Roughly, government can get through about 40 pieces of legislation a year, and when it comes to picking the 40 we pick tend to be ones we either have to do for one reason or another, are ones that will actually make a positive difference in people's lives. And the ones that we deprioritise are the ones that wouldn't really have much effect on anything at all. And I think that's just a logical and sensible approach to how you prioritise legislation. In terms of the wider question around social partnership and social dialogue, I would argue that the government has relaunched a form of social partnership, both in terms of the National Economic Dialogue, which happens, and that was very much spearheaded by Minister Howlin, but has been continued by this government, and then more particularly the Labour Employer Economic Forum, the LEAF, which allows government to engage in a structured way with unions and employers on issues such as employment law, pensions, all of those things that government should engage with ICTU and IBEC and others on and do regularly. What we've tried to avoid is going back to the form of social partnership that existed before the financial crisis, which we feel took decisions away from the elected government and took decisions away from the elected Dáil and Shannon. And while it was inclusive of some, it was actually exclusive of others. There was nobody there to represent the self-employed, for example. There was nobody there to represent sole traders. Nobody there to represent small businesses, most of them, who are not affiliated to IBEC. Nobody there to represent the taxpayer's interest, yet lots of people who wanted to spend taxpayers' money, and nobody there to protect the consumer interest, but lots of people who produce things that they expected consumers to buy. So that was the flaw in the old form of social partnership, and I'm pleased that neither the Fine Gael Labour government nor the Fine Gael Independent government decided to go back to that. In terms of the North East Inner City, I do think this has been a very good project and a very successful project. I'm not sure it would be possible to follow that model in all areas of deprivation around the country, but I do think it will be timely. We didn't actually know what's been done in the North East Inner City goes way beyond what was done in terms of community development under RAPID and under other schemes. But I have asked my department, along with Minister Ring's department, to examine what we could do that would learn from the North East Inner City Task Force and the approach there that could be applied to areas of significant disadvantage around the country. And that work is being done at the moment, both between my department and Minister Ring's. We don't want to reinvent RAPID, but I think learning from that and also learning from the North East Inner City Task Force, we're considering an initiative in that area. In terms of disability, what, sorry? Which one's that?
Making it a criminal offence in terms of young people. Gangs utilising young people selling drugs.
Sanctions against people who use young people to deliver drugs or sell drugs or gain entry to complexes where they deliver drugs. It's a real problem in Dublin.
I know it's a problem. I'm not familiar with the bill, though. I will check up on it.
There's no such offence at the moment.
There's no such offence at the moment. John Curran's bill provides for the sanctions. I'd ask you to.
I will. No, I'm genuinely not familiar with the issue. Obviously, not familiar with Deputy Curran's bill, but I'll check up on that. And if it's a good idea and if the bill is in good order, I'm sure we can work with the opposition to progress it. Just in terms of Deputy Boyd Barrett's question, it's often the case that people suggest that X, Y or Z be brought into the Taoiseach's department because they believe that in doing so it'll get more priority and there'll be more coordination. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It's a very small department, only 150 staff, and what would happen if something as important as disability was brought into such a small department, minuscule compared to the Department of Health or Social Protection, for example, is that it would fall behind our core functions, things like Brexit, like European affairs, like Northern Ireland, like engaging with other Prime Minister's offices, and that wouldn't be a good idea. I think what we've done is the right approach. For the first time, having a minister at the cabinet table with the responsibility and the only responsibility of disability services in the Department of Health, but also him being in the Department of Equality and Justice and Social Protection, thus coordinating all of the work that's being done. And I think because we have a minister at the cabinet table with responsibility for disability, that's why we're in a position to do what other governments didn't do, ratifying the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, increasing the budget for disability to over $2 billion for the first time, increasing the disability allowance, having a real meaningful programme to encourage and assist more people with disabilities to get into the workplace. All those things that have been done in recent years, I think were aided by the fact that for the first time ever there was somebody at the cabinet table responsible for disability and coordinating that work, and only disability.